Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kinda hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now! Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternating. We're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm film school dropout Robert Jarsinski. Across from me is our casual moviegoer Carrie Jarsinski and our very own critic in residence Tim Breeden. Today we're dedicating an entire episode to A Matter of Life and Death, selected by Travis Neely, who is one of our Patreon supporters. But first, Tim, what's going on at the box office?
Nothing is going on at the box office. So last weekend was a record-setting worst weekend in 15 years or some crazy thing like that. The worst August weekend in over 20 years. And this weekend is no better. It's just a dead zone out there.
It's not going to keep you from the theaters, though.
No. I'm very enthusiastically going to chip in my $5 Tuesday discount money to see Tulip Fever, the solitary new wide release this weekend, which I think tells you why the box office is doing so poorly, is we have films like Tulip Fever as like the big film to see. But yeah, no, they're not releasing anything is the big thing. So it's all of these shit movies that no one wants to see.
It's interesting. I don't know what the reasoning is. Obviously, it's a long weekend, so you figure is it just too late now to change slates? Like if you wanted to move something up or back, I would feel like a 3-day weekend is prime for a bigger movie.
Well, Labor Day is usually actually pretty bad for movies, although I don't know that they've ever tried to open a huge movie on Labor Day weekend. I think the bigger issue is just that, August sort of gets set in and everybody assumes that September's going to be crappy, so no one wants to open a movie in late August. And I think this year that was a mistake. I think that there are movies like If Mother, which is opening in a couple weekends, if that had opened last weekend, I think that could have done really, really well for itself, because it would have been, oh my God, a movie worth seeing. And now it's going to be sort of buried by it, I think.
Yeah, and that opens this weekend. That opens this weekend. So that'll hopefully be a draw.
It is the clown one, right?
That is
it
the clown
is
one.
the clown one.
Sadly, Carrie has not seen the original.
I thought I had, and then Rob's
it's anthology, like 5 hour.
It is a 2-part miniseries.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw The Thing. Is that close?
Sort of close. It and The Thing are both titles that sort of don't refer to anything. So there's that.
That's why I probably tied the two together.
We also have Home Again opening up, if I recall, the Reese Witherspoon
picture. We also have 9/11, which is
too soon.
It looks like it would always be too soon for this particular movie. It looks like a Lifetime Channel version of the 9/11 story.
You say too soon, but they've done.
I know, that's what I'm saying, and I refuse to
movies.
see it because I was like, how can you capitalize off of this situation? I wasn't a fan.
I think that they're not going to be capitalizing off of it. I think they're going to be losing a tremendous amount of money.
Well, good then.
Well, we have been contributing to the box office, and I thought we could jump into our worth mentioning segment. What is the worth mentioning segment of the movies we've seen since the last episode? Which are the ones we want to talk about most? They could be great movies. They could be terrible. We talk about them either way. Carrie, I know you did a little bit of theater rummaging, but how many movies did you end up taking in?
I saw 3 movies.
Week. 3 movies?
Yeah. I'm pretty steady at a 3
is that
a week.
Including A Matter of Life and Death?
Yes.
All right.
Tim, how about you? I don't know if you've been keeping track. I've seen how many reviews you've been putting out.
I finally came prepared to talk about the number of movies I've seen. If I'm also counting A Matter of Life and Death, I have seen 14.
That is absurd. That's absolutely absurd. Your beard is a little longer.
I'm single. I don't have anything else to do. I had some unpacking, so it was easy to throw on a movie and do some unpacking.
Yeah,
so
geez.
are most of these, the majority of these, in theaters? How are you consuming these 14?
No. Some of them were in theaters. I'm not prepared with that number. The DVDs, the Netflix, the Amazon Prime.
Because we did bump into you unexpectedly at the movie theater, which was a little awkward because it could have. I guess we could have thrown an invite out or could have received an invite out.
How was it awkward?
We just randomly bump into your co-host.
Awkward. I thought it was like
no, it was pleasant.
Were you worried that he was going to be out with another film school dropout?
I thought maybe he was.
I was with my other podcasters. I was with my cool podcasters,
entertaining other co-hosts for his other shows.
Yeah.
No, we were going to go see. I was seeing Leap with the girls.
Well, that's the hilarious thing is because you were going into Leap. and I had come out of Leap. Or you had come out of one Leap and I had come out of an earlier Leap. We both saw Leap on the same day. This was $5 Tuesday. So.
It was $5 Tuesday.
Well, I was trying to cover for Carrie to take the girls out so she could actually see one of her top 5 anticipated movies.
I saw Wind River.
Wind River, absolutely. But Tim, you were wrapping up a triple feature.
I think at that point I was actually in the middle of a triple feature.
So excited to hear. I don't know if one of those will end up being your worth mentionings, but Carrie, you got to see Wind River.
Yeah, it was I think it was maybe like my second or third or fourth.
It was somewhere on there.
It was somewhere in there of my most anticipated. And originally there wasn't a lot you could know about it, but I had seen the trailer and thought it looked really good. So Tim talked about it last week, so I won't spend a ton of time on it this week. You liked it.
I did.
And then Tim told me when I said, am I going to like it? He said, I think you'll like it like a half a point less than you liked Hell or High Water. And that was pretty factual.
All right.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So I would say it was like 0.2 less than Hell or High Water, which still gives it 4 stars for me. Nice. I really enjoyed this movie. And I guess I'll just leave it as I think Rob still hasn't seen it, but you will really like it. There's some heavy content in there, though, that I think...
I would characterize it as very heavy. Yes.
Heavy, yeah. Very moderate to very heavy.
So it's not slapstick. It's not a slapstick movie.
No.
It's kind of heavy.
There is slapping in it.
There is slapping. It's graphic, and it's really tough. Like, I had a definite stomach knot for most of the movie, but gosh, when you put it all together, it was just really strong. And like you said, Jeremy Renner, best performance I've seen him in a long time. For sure. And I was waiting the whole time. Last episode, Tim talked about a particular scene that was in there that you thought was really monumental for Jeremy Renner. Totally was like waiting for it then. So like he'd start something and it would almost be, sound like he was really going to say something great. And then it was like, that wasn't that great. That couldn't have been it. Like, and then the scene came and I was like, oh, that's it.
Oh, the scene is the scene. Like there's no
other scene once you get there. But it was great. I recommend people seeing it, and it's beautiful, beautifully shot. Yes. So I would recommend seeing it in theaters if you do. Who I don't recommend it to is a 6-year-old child. So I have a question for you guys.
No way.
Oh my gosh. I have a question for you guys. I have a moral question for you guys. So you remember when I told you guys that I approached that guy on the airplane about watching Hell or High Water, and you guys thought that was weird. So this guy and his son walk up and they're scoping out the billboards outside.
Sure.
And they're like, Ingrid Goes West, what's the other one?
It's a sequel to Fievel. It's Fievel's friend.
Yeah, right.
To be fair, I think Ingrid Goes West would have been at least marginally worse of a choice for a 6-year-old than Wind River.
Really?
Maybe not.
So it's really... but what about Logan Lucky?
Logan Lucky would definitely be the best choice for a 6-year-old.
Okay, so here's where we go. So they're toying between Logan Lucky and Wind River. And
so they're at the ticket counter?
They're at so I'm standing outside waiting for Rob to come back and pick me up like I'm in high school with the girls. And I'm just like, I'm lingering, but I'm hearing this conversation go down. And the dad's like, what do you want to see, Wind River or, Logan Lucky? And I'm like, oh, please pick Logan Lucky. Please look. And he's like, Wind River looks pretty good. It's probably about, wind. I was like, and I've just
ironically
seen it.
not actually.
There's less wind.
There's
it's
snow.
Very stagnant air. And I was just like, every ounce of my motherhood being, or like ethics, morals, whatever, was just crying out to be like, don't see this movie.
So you said something.
I didn't.
Of course.
And
you did.
I felt terrible. Should I have said something?
If I'm in earshot, I'm saying, I'd be like, you know what, sir, excuse me. I just walked out of that movie. It's a little rough.
I mean,
it's a little rough.
I should have.
Honestly, my concern, this is, I think, speaks to the fact that you're parents and I'm not. My concern would be less for the 6-year-old being traumatized by Wind River, and more that I think it would be appalling to have a 6-year-old in the theater where Wind River is being shown.
I know. The whole situation was difficult. And as the ticketeers, are they ticketeers? Are you
going to call them that? Going forward, that is the official term.
Yeah. So the ticketeers, are you going to give this little kid a ticket?
There are theaters that have a no children under 6 into R-rated films policy.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
Maybe he was just
I've
small.
certainly been in theaters with babies,
Sure.
where they're trying to just quietly keep, which is not a great experience either, because I'm just still thinking, and I don't mean to pass any judgment on anybody who does that, who's a listener of the show, but
don't do it because you're bad.
But don't
You're
do
a bad person.
But
you should
stop it. A 6-year-old can understand enough
Oh,
so it is at
yeah.
the age, I would say, starting at probably 3, where content can be
Sure.
understood enough where it can have a lasting effect.
Yeah.
And I have not seen this
You
movie.
would be scarred for life.
I'm going to be scarred seeing
I
it
know.
at 35.
Yeah,
so
Rob's not good. Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have said anything. I don't have that kind of personality, but I think the official stance of
Is-
my as a thinker would be you should say something. in
I'm
that
sorry.
situation.
And then the minute they walked away, I was like, Carrie, why didn't you say something? You're a terrible person. So I feel really bad about it now. Thanks for affirming.
I like
my
making you
guilt.
feel bad. That's my job
I
as
know.
a
So yeah,
husband.
Wind River. If you liked the Hell or High Water or Sicario, I don't know, either of those.
We were
It's still
supposed
really
to trade.
good.
I was supposed to go Thursday, and I ended up doing fantasy football draft. Tim, I don't know if that's something that you partake in, but
I do not.
fantasy
I think so.
football
I
drafting.
don't think so.
Do we run a fantasy football podcast?
No,
Rob?
we do not.
Then why would
And
I
it is
partake
not
in it?
they're not a sponsor. So,
This is his only job.
but it's a lot of fun.
But good, I'm glad. And
What did you end up
So
seeing
wait,
today?
4 stars. Don't forget to put that in my
I've
rankings.
already
Okay.
I put that down. And you need to see this movie so you can
Yeah.
get in on it. We can see who wins the summer prediction game.
So what did you see?
So what I saw, I'm not going to go through all 14 because that would be really tedious. The film that I saw when I crossed paths with Rob at the theater was an animated film. So I'd actually done an animation double feature, starting with Leap, and then moving on to this film, In This Corner of the World, which is a Japanese film. Not going to do you guys should see it, because anime has clearly not been the direction. Although I will say, if your problem is that anime is too much in fantastic genres, this is not. It is a very simple human story. It's about a young woman. We see her at the age of 8 or so in 1933. Grow up with her for the next 10 years. They're covered very quickly, maybe 20 minutes of screen time. Arrive in 1943, where she is married. She moves in with her husband's family, learns sort of how to be a traditional Japanese wife, how to keep a family together, and so on. And this is, of course, all happening during World War II. So the setting is, the middle of the war. By this point in time, the tide has clearly turned, although not so much that like Japan is in a state of disarray yet. That happens later in the film, but it's basically for the bulk of the film we're watching 43, 44, and 45 as the situation in Japan worsens. And the film keeps giving us these very clear markers of what month it is, what year it is, what day it is. So the whole time in your head, you're just like, oh, August 6th, 45 is coming really soon. They're going to drop the bomb. This movie's going to end with them dropping the bomb. And the movie ends with them dropping the bomb because the whole thing takes place on Hiroshima Bay. So I won't say what happens other than that, Japan did lose the war. An amazing, amazing character story. So beautiful. The character is so amazingly well sketched. She wants to be a painter. Like, she has to give that up in order to become this traditional Japanese wife. But the film sort of takes the form of moving watercolors. So it's not just like, oh, it's their cartoon characters in a cartoon background. It looks like watercolor paintings with these sort of very softly drawn in pastel characters. So beautiful, very moving story. Not a story about how everybody dies when the bomb falls. Like, that is not the climax. I won't say what the climax is. There is death. It is very harrowing. It is very upsetting. But it is ultimately a story about how Japan as a nation learned how to regroup and rebuild as a result of having lost the war.
Does this have a wide release?
No, very small release. It sort of was entirely by accident that I discovered it was playing in Madison at all. It was in Japan last year, crawling its way across the United States. If you live in a major metropolitan area, you might still be able to find it playing at one theater or two. It never was playing at more than 2 theaters anyplace. If you live in a smaller market, it might still be on its way towards you. Definitely keep an eye out for it if you like animation, if you like 20th century history, if you care about World War II. the impact of war on society. An absolute masterpiece. This is one of the best films I've seen.
What did
this
you
year.
give it?
Wow.
4.5. There is a review of it on the site. Very glowing review. But this is a movie that gets my hardest recommendation.
If it's still in Marcus, I'm really interested to check this out.
It's gone from the
just
city
left.
of Madison,
Okay.
Wisconsin.
No.
sadly.
Well, we'll see it soon. Given its release, will it be up? Could it be up for anything?
It is eligible for the Best Animated Feature Oscar, and it will absolutely not be nominated.
That's a shame.
Although, I don't know. This has been a shitty year for animation. It might get nominated.
Okay.
I doubt it.
What did you see?
Well, it's the movie that Tim and I crossed paths with when I was taking the girls into. It's really the only movie outside of the spoiler alert movie that I saw, which was Leap, also known as Ballerina.
Yes.
Originally released in 2016, I guess is its
Yeah, it was
official
released.
release
It was
date.
made in France in English, released in France and in the UK. Although there was a French dub made for France, it was released as Ballerina last December. And the Weinstein Company got it and renamed it Leap because I'm pretty sure the reason is ballerinas are for girls.
Right.
And we don't.
I don't mind the title change. The title change was fine for me, and so I caught this as a trailer a couple weeks back, and we don't have cable TV, so we were just going through IMDb, and I caught it, and I showed it to the girls, and both girls are really into dance, and the soundtrack is certainly pop music, but it got me. Like I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, upbeat.
I don't know the story, but I know there's some Carly Rae Jepsen single that she's been sitting on for like 8 months. That
Rob
only finally
loves
got
her.
released.
Which you listened to. You probably didn't realize what you were listening to
Oh,
on
no,
the
I
car
did.
ride over.
I
Okay,
did.
perfect.
I did.
Did you see him trying to open the door and roll himself out several times? He knew.
But the story is an orphan girl dreams of becoming a ballerina and flees her rural Brittany for Paris, where she passes for someone else and tries to become a student.
The hero of the movie is an identity thief.
Yes.
In fact, she steals someone's identity, and we laud her for this because it was a naughty person whose identity she stole.
Well, then that's fine.
I was excited to see it. I really I like ballet movies. I like dance movies. So Center Stage came out in 2000 when I was I guess I was a senior in high school. You liked
that cheerleader movie
I like
too,
Black
didn't
Swan.
you?
I like movies where you have to like learn something and there's a training montage. So
There is a training montage set to Carly Rae Jepsen in Leap.
So I was excited for the potential for this movie. I feel like it was so poorly executed from a story perspective. It had the makings of a decent story, a story we've seen certainly. So it wasn't going to break any new ground there at all. And then there were some things too where the dialogue, the dubbing was all, or the dialogue was all off screen. Like they would cut away from their mouths moving for some reason.
There was
Like,
a
I picked
lot of
up on that.
times. It's actually less dubbed than I would have expected based on that, because I totally thought it was just like the Weinstein people throwing in additional dialogue wherever they could to cram gags in. Does not turn out to be the case. Still really, really, really bad gags.
Really bad. No, there wasn't a lot of humor. This is the part that I don't get. You mentioned the English dub. It was made in English with English speakers in mind, with Dane DeHaan as the best friend.
And everyone's
Victor.
favorite American voice actor, Dane DeHaan.
Well, yeah. So I still haven't heard his version because he was quickly replaced for just the U.S. version. So in Canada, you can still catch Dane DeHaan potentially
If you want to.
but Nat Wolff was replaced. Who actually I like his animated squeakiness. I feel like works for the character of Victor.
He fit the character more than I imagined Dane DeHaan would have, although that character is probably my least favorite part of that movie.
Yeah. There is no really good moral to the story. It's not like, it is
I
about
thought it was
an
like
identity
strive
thief.
for your dreams.
The moral
It is.
basically is strive for your dreams and
Yeah.
work hard, and you'll get them.
You know what? That's what kids are going to take away. So,
But it's also about cutting, so she's just somehow naturally gifted. That was the part that bothered me
Some
too.
people
It's
are.
like, yeah, she works a little bit hard, but it's the training montage happens overnight.
It's literally
it's
literally.
overnight.
She has 48 hours to become the best child
it's a
ballerina
cartoon,
in Paris.
people.
No,
It's a
but-
cartoon.
I know, but even in cartoons, like there's some time lapse. Like maybe she has a couple weeks or months to prepare and like get better, and she works hard and everything.
Isn't she
but,
a
like,
mouse or something?
No.
Oh, this
She's
is a
real-
person.
these
Oh,
are
okay.
She's a human
All right.
being.
I haven't seen the movie.
She has the lifespan of a human being.
Okay.
There's
It would have been much better if she was a
Okay.
mouse.
All
There's
right.
a potential fling with the Russian. Is it
Oh,
also
yes,
ballerina?
she is prepubescent.
Uh-huh.
And
What does that mean to you?
In this case, it means that she has not yet gone through puberty.
But is that like 12?
Yeah,
You're estimating 12.
I mean, it's very clear that she has not developed breasts.
Okay.
Like that's not,
Interesting.
I don't want to say it's a plot point, but like
Interesting
So
it's
32
it matters.
for some of us. 30,
Yes.
34. I'm sure.
32. Oh, I was
But
like,
no, so let's call her like 10 or 11 at most. And clearly wants to jump on the Russian princeling. Wants to jump his Russian bones.
that would be a little
there's
weird.
that, and it's. I don't think there's a place for that necessarily with the age that the demographic that this is trying to appeal to. So there were those issues. I will say the animation itself was really nice.
I refer you to my review.
Oh,
Yeah, he didn't like the animation.
Did not like the animation.
you didn't like the animation?
I referred to it as watching a drunken marionette yanking his puppets.
Yeah,
I believe.
You said it was really quick movements and
Yeah, it's very weirdly
jumpy.
rigged. Like you can really, they feel like, and part of this is knowing the technology behind it, but you can feel the shape of the digital skeletons in a way that you ordinarily cannot. Like their limbs are very clearly moving as autonomous objects that have been rigged to move.
it didn't bother me as much as just the storyline being so like the basic infrastructure of the story was fine. It's how they got from point A to point B along the way, and then just very little actual laugh out loud humor. I
No,
didn't laugh at all.
Terrible humor.
Yeah.
Very, very scatological humor in a lot of places. Weirdly anachronistic humor. Didn't care for it.
So forget about what you people have to say. Did the girls like it?
They liked it in theaters, and then when I asked Abby on the ride,
I was going to
with
say,
Tim,
I have heard your daughter this very day give it a sideways thumb.
Oh,
Sideways
a sideways thumb.
A thumb that was not up and was not down.
That's what she gives my curry.
It was to this. Well,
So it's
I would,
about.
I would feel very bad about your curry.
That's good.
Interestingly enough, I was when I saw Carly Rae Jepsen's name in the casting, I was kind of listening for her voice.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that she was playing like the older.
I assumed she had to be because that was one of the two characters who sounded so entirely inappropriate for 19th century France. I was like, oh, that's the celebrity who doesn't know how to act.
Surprisingly, I didn't think it was that bad for playing an old. I didn't pick up that was like a 20-year-old girl playing what would be like a seasoned ex-ballet person.
I mean, she's probably not much more than in her early 30s.
Sure.
But
That's true. I guess people in ballet don't have
the
long
lifespan
careers.
of ballerinas is short, and this is a ballerina who had a accident cut her career off early.
I would say if you're gonna watch this, throw this up for the kids and then go watch something else.
cook. Go
instead
do
of-
something
yeah,
else.
Go do something else. You
This
don't
is
need
an
to pay attention.
absolute have Netflix babysit sort of movie.
We did enroll the girls in ballet shortly after this, so so it did motivate that action. Remember, you can find more details about all the movies we've watched at our website, alternateending.com. That's alternateending.com. Before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. We've made it easier to become a Patreon subscriber, and friends of AE are taking notice. You may want to make us watch a movie, have Tim write a review, pick your own episode topic. You can do it all from our Patreon page, just like Brendan McAllister, who upped his support to our Sundance Jury Prize from a Razzie Award. Brendan was tired of the Razzie Award and he wanted to have Carrie and I watch a movie.
Oh, wait, what is it?
I
Which
don't know.
movie?
We haven't
Oh,
heard
okay.
back yet, but
You couldn't say anyway. You gotta wait till you've actually watched it.
exactly. So we'll be doing that as part of our Worth Mentioning segment. Also, Andrew Johnson picked up one of our few remaining Critics' Choice Rewards, which will get a movie review by Tim. Only 9 of those left, so if you want to lock in your Tim review, be sure to get out there to our Patreon page quickly. Also, want to thank all of our listeners who support the show and make their Amazon purchases through our site. Doing it is easy. Just go to our website, alternateending.com. Click on our Amazon banner and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better. Since our last episode, just a few items purchased. A CPU cooling fan.
Oh, yeah.
Ever get the lap burn?
Can't have a hot CPU.
Yeah,
No.
and that happens. We've got a nice Apple laptop now with the solid state.
Rob burns it
no
up.
fan, and like it still gets hot from time to time.
Oh yeah.
I could have
need a CPU
sear
fan.
marks on my lap. So yeah, good pickup there. Also, likely inspired for back to school. You have to, being a kid nowadays, you have to go with your own headset.
Oh, yeah, headphones.
Headphones, yeah. So this
that's
is
strange.
iClever Boost Care Wired Kids headphones, and what they do is they have a volume limitation too. So you don't want to
I like that.
hear hurt the kids' eardrums. So all the kids' headphones have volume limitations. So good pickup there. And then
So is this when they teach your children by placing them in pods? Is that how this works? Like,
yeah,
I'm,
just
I'm
self.
years away from school at this point.
They throw them a few snacks, and then they just say, like, this is like that Montessori theory where it's like just
Right.
fend for yourselves. And so that's why you need the headphones.
So that's what my taxes are going for.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of fending for yourselves, outdoor gear purchase, and I think your Uncle Dale mentioned this to us. He was talking about we were
What is
talking about
it?
cooking food.
Maybe this is from the camping episode. People were inspired to camp.
possibly camping petrol, diesel, kerosene, alcohol, liquid gas. So rather than cooking things on the fire, use your little self burner.
I'm unclear that I would want to have gas sent to me in the mail.
Also true.
Also,
I feel
Also
like
true.
it would explode the mail truck.
Listener, hopefully
Unknown.
that mail makes it, that Amazon
Hopefully
purchase
it
makes it
makes
to you
it to you.
safely.
If
Let
not-
us know that you've received it. Let us know that you did not die in a horrible
you'll get a
fire.
refund on our website if it blows up.
Well, a refund from Amazon.
Well, you know what I mean.
Well, thank you guys for all your purchases. When we get back, a matter of life and death.
Welcome back to Alternate Ending, where for our spoiler alert episode this week, we're taking a look at the film A Matter of Life and Death. This was a request by Travis Neely, who you might know better as commenter WBTN on our website. So A Matter of Life and Death is a 1946 British film, so right after the World War was over. It's written and directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, who, if you know much about mid-century British filmmakers, you don't need me to introduce these men, and if you don't, let me just tell you, Michael Powell was English. Emmerich Pressburger was an immigrant from, if I'm not very mistaken, Germany. And together they began working to make propaganda films in the early 1940s. And once the war ended, they had gotten such a good rapport with each other that they kept making films into the 1950s, where they have some excellent work as well. But they made films under the name of the Archers. That was their production company. And there's a very cool thing, and I'm going to tell this to Rob and Carrie because I assume this is the first film either one of you have seen from the Archers.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I've not seen any of the Archers' work.
As I know of. Yeah.
You would not.
I would
not
know.
know.
Okay.
Their logo was a target, and an arrow hits the target. And when the arrow hits the target, up come the words, an Archers production. And the position of the arrow on the target was a factor of how close Powell and Pressburger thought they got to their goal. If the movie is what they wanted and they were proud of it and they're like, yes, this is a good movie, it would be a bullseye.
Interesting.
Matter of Life and Death is one of only 4 bullseyes given to an Archer production.
That's really cool.
Oh, I
So,
like that.
I like that insider kind of tell. Oh, that's fun. I'm going to...
So it is a movie that they thought was
Was
great.
it great?
They were very happy with it. I frankly think they should have been very happy with it. I think this is a masterpiece. The film is set towards the end of World War II. The European combat is almost wrapped up when squadron leader Pete Carter of the RAF, played by David Niven, is trying to escape a horrible burning conflagration. His plane is going down. His co-pilot is dead. So he is radioing into an British airbase to explain the situation before he bails out, because as he explains it, he would rather die in the air than die in a burning fireball. And he speaks to an American radio operator named June, played by Kim Hunter. And so June and Peter flirt, and it's cute.
It's
and
so
fun.
cute, isn't
and
it?
And then he gets ready to die.
Oh, gosh.
But he doesn't die.
Doesn't
He somehow
die.
falls 1,000 feet out of the sky, lands in the English Channel, survives. And this causes problems over there being the afterlife, where the bureaucracy is all in a tizzy because he was supposed to die, and now their numbers are off. And so the film takes the form of Peter basically negotiating with the powers that be that he shouldn't. It's not his fault that he's not dead. He was ready to die, but he survived anyway. So how is he to not go to heaven, basically? Because now he's in love with June. Now he wants to stay on Earth. How is this going to happen? Like, is there an appeal system? Is there any sort of mechanism for him not being sent back to the afterlife? So the film oscillates between the other world, which is in black and white, and the world of a small town in England, which is in full, beautiful Technicolor, as the bureaucrats of heaven on the one side are trying to figure out how to deal with the situation, and on a doctor and June in our world are trying to cure Peter of what they assume is some sort of very vivid hallucination. Mm-hmm. So that's the thrust of the plot.
That was good.
I have tipped my hat. I think this is a great film. I think this is one of the all-time great films.
You give it a bullseye?
I give it a bullseye. I give it 5 stars. It is on my published list of the best films of all time. But I gotta ask, what did you guys think?
I'm more curious on Rob because I have no idea.
Sure. No, I'll take an objective view, not considering the time in which the year in which this movie was made. I like it just on the merit of the movie itself. I really enjoyed it. But then when you take into account the year that this movie was made, I kept having to check back to see 1946.
1946.
So it's just the opening. I had to go back to my phone. I was like, wait, when was this movie made? Because the opening has what appears to be like CGI.
There's a hole in the bottom of his plane, and there's fire and all that stuff.
Even prior to that, just like the universe.
The universe
through the universe.
I didn't see things like that till like late 50s. I thought that didn't even 60s.
This was an effects extravaganza. I think we don't think of that as a thing that happened until the 60s, but no, this was totally a popcorn movie. This was like the Jurassic World of 1946.
And then to your point, Kara, all the things with the airplanes, and it wasn't even just the effects, which the visuals and the color saturation, the fun of going between color and black and white, representing the two, and then just the philosophical debate, not only that's happening in trying to not have to go to heaven ultimately, but also kind of what's the underlying thing, which I hope we'll get to a little bit, is like the is he or isn't he actually?
Right. I mean,
that part's really
that's clear. That's completely clear.
All right. I don't know. I think I want it to be clear.
Oh, it's clear to me.
But okay. I think the movie does an extraordinarily good job of not actually answering that question.
I feel clear, so we'll get to that.
So I forgive it the things I typically hold against older movies, which is, some of the dialogue is, while it's written so funny and so clever, like the timing is a little like you have to kind of allow yourself to kind of suspend the current pace and structure of dialogue exchanges.
It's very British. It's very slow. Yeah. It's very thoughtful.
I don't think it was slow at all.
It's very David Niven.
It felt fast to me. It felt the pace of it felt...
No, the pace was fast. It's just the way, it's not organic in the way people talk today, I guess. And maybe that's how people spoke back then, but just...
I feel like David Niven speaks that way. I feel like there's... When he's like drunk and falling down and angry, like he still has that very prim, clipped way of speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe so. So where does it rank for you? You really liked it? Medium, high, medium, low? Where is it star-wise?
No, I'd say this is a solid... And I so have trouble with older movies because it's hard for me to stack them up against their modern versions. I would give this 4 stars. I'd feel pretty confident giving this 4 stars, given the historical perspective of where movies were in the 40s, which I haven't seen movies in the 50s.
Better than they are now.
Yeah,
I know.
I really enjoyed this movie.
Cool.
Good.
I'm glad.
How about you, Kara?
Yeah.
I am a little obsessed with it. So I love
I'm so
this
glad to hear
movie,
that.
like in a weird way. Like this was like really, really good. Like sometimes older humor can be a miss for me. I was cracking up through this entire movie, and
mostly Conductor 71, right?
Yeah,
71 is so good.
So good.
I had forgotten entirely that character existed from the last time I saw the film, and when he's explaining his background to the woman who's like the head bureaucrat in this office in heaven, and he explains that he died in the French Revolution, and she says, "Oh, death by natural causes," and that to me is just like weirdly hilarious.
Is it? No, but I thought he had his head chopped off.
Yeah,
that's
the
yeah.
joke.
Oh yeah, right. No, I caught that joke. I caught that. I thought David Niven was hilarious too.
Yeah.
I mean, just his timing and his facial expressions and just everything like that tied together. That I thought it was hilarious. I thought I was nervous about what was going to happen, and I thought it was a perfectly woven love story. Like it was just perfectly woven.
It really is. I think it's easy to get hung up on, and I've certainly done this. It's so easy to get hung up on the like philosophy of it and the craft of it and what it says about nationality in the immediate post-war era. It's a really good love story. Like,
really good.
Lovely.
I was so appreciative of Travis Neely for this because I do struggle with sometimes with the older ones too, just because the humor can be a miss or it can be slow or whatever. And this one for me, I enjoyed every single minute of this entire movie.
There's even some insider jokes too, which I got when Conductor 71 goes from heaven to earth for the first time and then comments that the world is so much more beautiful and Technicolor.
You forget Technicolor, and it's because the film is just like literally dissolved into Technicolor.
And they were, I guess it's a little inside joke too, because they were struggling to find, Technicolor was still rather new, I would assume.
It was fairly new. This was not the first British Technicolor film, but given the economic state of the British film industry, it was much less common there than it had been in the States.
But breaking the third wall too.
Breaking the third wall it's not impossible to find it in movies this old, but it's much rarer before the 60s. It's much, much rarer.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing was good. There were mostly, like you said, it was a popcorn movie. So frankly, for me, there weren't a lot of loose ends. Like a lot of times I come out of these ones that are recommended to us with many, many questions because I don't know, there tend to be more complex. Like this was definitely one that's just easy watching, I think, for sure. I don't know if you guys have questions, but I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go for it. You go first.
Okay. So one of the pieces of this is when, what's his name? Conductor 71?
Yes.
Conductor 71 comes by, they always smell onions, fried onions.
Actually, that was one of my questions as well, too.
Why? Is it because it's so amazing?
I have some thoughts.
Is it because that's the best smell ever?
I think yes. No, that's actually one of the pieces of evidence I think that it might all be taking place in his head, because it is so everything in the movie that's about neuroscience is accurate to the knowledge of 1946. Like they had doctors come on and like advise on the script to make sure that they were describing Peter's circumstances in a way that was like medically sound. So the idea that certain brain injuries would involve the smell of cooking foods and such as fried onions is medically accurate.
It's a thing. Okay.
And I think it's also meant to be just, I've been rewatching, or not rewatching, I've been watching the new Twin Peaks recently, and I think that this idea of the other world having sort of weird sensory ticks to it that are not necessarily explicable. It's just like, oh, well, of course, everyone who comes down from heaven smells like fried onions, because what else would they smell like?
Because heaven's supposed to be perfection. Right. So I can see
that.
So
before hearing that from Tim, I actually took it as fried onions must be his favorite thing in the world, and heaven smells like whatever your favorite thing is.
Ooh, that's a good way to think about it.
I do wonder if there was like a weird anti-French thing in there, like, oh, the French eat onions, not like us proper British who eat, boiled
potatoes
eel heads or whatever shit Brits eat. Apologies to our British listeners.
There's actually a lot of them.
Here's an interesting thing too, where the movie explores, where for me it didn't resonate. This is the piece which takes it down, I guess, if you want to say down to a 4-star movie. The parts where during and I don't mean to skip, if you guys don't want to skip ahead this far, but the trial where there was so much focus on America versus Britain, where maybe that was still very much still a real issue in the 40s. I feel like that part didn't need to be there. Like they overemphasized the things to keep in mind. It is a British film. Mm-hmm. I think an American film would not have focused on that at all. In 1946, the British Empire still exists, and in 1946, the British Empire is clearly about to no longer exist. So I think that's like a sort of, it's a question that's up in the air right now. Britain has spent the last 70 years as this towering power in the whole world, and that's about to go away. What does that do for Britain's place in the world? What does that do for Britain's place relative to other countries? And in particular, there was a perception in the Anglosphere that I don't really think is borne out historically, but the Americans felt this way, and I think the British felt this way to a certain degree. The Americans had to come in and save the Brits because the Brits weren't doing it. Like the British were not losing to Germany, but the British were just sort of like hanging in there, and it took the Americans coming over to be like, okay, we're going to win the war now.
Well, there was that very specific monologue that he has too. I can't think of his name, but the guy that's the prosecutor has specifically about how Americans
Raymond
are.
Massey, who played Abraham.
Raymond
Garland.
Thank you. Has about why America, is so powerful and has all these, is more superior than everybody else and whatever. So probably, hammering home that point.
And that's the thing, like America is at this point suddenly aware that it's the most powerful country in the world and does not have this, relationship to Europe that it thought that it had through most of the 19th century, where it's a sort of subservient thing. Like Americans are now realizing, oh no, we're the big dogs in the room now. And so I think that's what's feeding into it. It's this long-standing question of is America nothing but sort of the version of Britain that's over there? It's bigger, it's rowdier. And I think World War II was the point where that question was more or less definitively answered. It's like, no, America's its own thing. But and I think you get to that point when you have the jury of all Americans at the end that are made up of all sorts of different ethnicities and backgrounds.
Exactly.
Because I think there had been, into World War I, certainly an idea that we were like Britain's kid. And I think that goes away in World War II, and I think that's where that's coming from.
Yeah. I thought that whole judge scene was really great too.
Yes.
I don't know everything about this movie, but anyway,
There was a part early on, which I'm curious what your thoughts are. It actually lost one of our listeners who appreciate Travis Neely, by the way, also making the YouTube available for this
thank you for
because
this.
this was hard to track down. We had not everybody has a Tim, as I joke with Travis.
I invested in the DVD because it's a masterpiece and I love it, and it's a good DVD. But Criterion, you need to get on this shit like right now. You need to make a.
if you're listening, Criterion
Collection.
Listen to Tim.
Listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
But one listener actually checked out around minute 20. She was in all right for a bit. This is Joy V. Hill when the naked boy on the beach surfaced.
Okay.
I was fine with the naked boy.
Why is there a naked boy? I don't get it either.
Why isn't there a naked boy?
I mean,
in every other movie?
are there naked children playing the flugelhorn or flute or whatever he was doing?
So here is my assumption about that scene. It's a very weird scene. I will spot that to Joy. It is a strange, inexplicable moment. The assumption I make is that in reality, the boy just went swimming and is drying on the beach. And, in Britain in the 40s,
Yeah.
no, they didn't make children-sized swimming trunks. The kids just stripped down and go swimming and no one cared. So that's, I think, what happened. Niven walks onto this beach where a naked boy is blowing a flute, and it's very beautiful. And his thought is, the cherubs. I think that's what's going on. I think it's just at that moment,
setting it up more.
Niven still thinks he's in heaven.
Got it. Setting it up so for him, it's still like he's not clear where he thinks. Okay.
And I think the idea of a naked male youth blowing a horn is a very classical symbol of like,
where do I report?
Of beatific, heavenly. And also, of course, all British men are pedophiles.
Sure, of course, yeah.
Not stereotyping there at all.
That makes sense. If it's supposed to be a replacement, kind of to support the fact in his mind that he's now in heaven, and and he's like, yeah, where do I go? Hey there.
That being said, I can think of no yield to not putting the boy in pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that comment.
But they didn't.
I saw it, and then I felt bad because so that may have been a little strange. Didn't bug me, but then as the movie went on and it just got better and better and better, I was sad that Joy didn't make it past that because I think she would enjoy it.
There were some other funny little bits which I thought were ahead of their time. While they're in heaven, Bob, his co-pilot
Yes.
or fellow passenger, a support person. Co-pilot? Sure.
Yeah,
let's call it co-pilot.
right
Who passed away early on, who's just sitting there kind of smiling, not smiling, but has a funny look on his face during the airplane scene. Makes his way to heaven. He's waiting around for Peter, right? Peter to get there, doesn't show up, and obviously the alarm bells go off. The counting is off now. They got to go get him. And they want to go reason with Peter, and they ask Bob, like, how is Peter to reason with? He's fine. He's very, heads on straight, except when he drinks a little bit too much. But then, like 15 minutes later, they cut to
Conductor 71.
Conductor 71 shows up on Earth,
Yep.
and is stealing, kind of playing games with the liquor. And I didn't get it at first. We actually watched that part twice, and only in the second time did it click on me. They're doing a callback to the joke that he doesn't want him to imbibe liquor because then he becomes less reasonable.
Sure.
So that was a fun little
I think those
Easter
were
egg.
woven. I bet if we watched it again, we'd even find more of those. Like I feel like that was throughout the entire movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a sophisticated form of writing. Like, I think it's easy to think of callbacks as being like a very modern thing, especially because of like Arrested Development and all the comedy that has sprung out of that. It's old. Callbacks are hundreds of years old.
So speaking of the writing,
Yes.
such good writing.
Such good writing.
Why was the dialogue in this was? I talked about the humor. The humor was amazing. There were so many epic singular quotes in this that are like, hey, I want to make that like my profile on Facebook cover photo. Like just like good messages, like good, well woven writing.
I will say that probably David Niven was quoting a lot of Plato, Socrates.
Yeah, there are a lot of classical
poetry.
That could also be there. So there were a couple that I wanted to just call it that I really liked. So one of them was, he says, a weak mind isn't strong enough to hurt itself. Stupidity has saved many a man from going mad. I was like, that is so true.
I think that might be an original. I think that's from the script. I don't think that's
I thought that was such a good quote. I didn't deliver it in the right voice or the right pace.
Well, none of us are David Niven.
I'm not David Niven. I'm going to try to be from now on, but yeah, I loved that line. And then I also loved the part at the very end where they say about the part where he says, you claim to love her. And then he says, I do love her. And they said, can you prove it? And he says, well, give me some time, sir. 50 years will do.
Yes.
And then he says, but can you prove it? And he said, well, a starving man can prove he's hungry except to eat. Well, wait, did I say that right?
Oh, yeah. I've got that written down, too. I had that line written down.
I loved... Like, it's so true.
Yes.
Like, how do you prove something? Like, I don't know.
And that's where the movie is firing on all cylinders for me, is all of those scenes. And also I want to call out this because I thought that the doctor, or Frank, the doctor, Roger Livesey, excellent.
He's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this. David Niven is actually very much a hit or miss actor for me. I think he's hitting real hard in this film. Roger Livesey, I just love. He's always good in everything. He's... also in a film by Powell and Pressburger called The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, which is, I don't think their film immediately prior to this, maybe even not a couple films prior to this, but it's, he plays the main character and it is just a stellar, like, tragicomic performance. So I will say if you liked him in this movie, definitely see Life and Death of Colonel Blimp.
Interesting thing I picked up on too, when they are doing some special effects, did you notice the sound goes out?
Oh yeah.
What's that about?
Like when he's visited by Conductor 71.
Yeah.
Because time has stopped.
Oh, yeah.
So there's nothing causing sound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got
He's
that
basically
one.
just in a still vacuum.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that was
Which-
a limitation of the effects or something like that.
I mean, the effects are that
the
they
effects
ask
are-
Kim Hunter and Roger Livesey to stand very
still. I know. I was watching her. I'm like, I think I saw you move a little
totally,
bit.
totally.
Yeah.
they're excellent ping pong players, I got to say.
I know.
I'd be worried to challenge
I'm
them.
going to take June
Yeah.
on. I know. I was a little bit jealous. The other thing, too, is that, so Peter is supposed to be 27 years old in this. He's actually 36 at the time, which is very obvious. He's like an old...
He's not a young looking 36.
No, exactly. And I was like, are you 45? He's like, yeah, I'm only 27.
Like when David Niven says I'm 27, it's like, no, you're fucking not.
You're not.
I mean, when David Niven was 27, I would not have believed it.
No. So I feel like that was a little bit of a strange, like, in June looked old enough that you could have just cast this as being older characters. Like, we're both 35. Let's just get over it. You know, we haven't been using our wrinkle cream. But
And I think Kim Hunter only was in her 20s at this point. I think she
was she?
Yeah.
See, and she looked
She was
mature.
23 at the time of the shooting.
holy crap, really?
People did age faster then. Like, that's the thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. So,
One thing this movie reminded me of, and again, I had no historical reference that this movie existed, so when I saw the 1980, early 1990 Defending Your Life,
Yes.
that's a favorite of mine. I really like Defending Your Life.
There are two particular movies that I think of as the like successors to A Matter of Life and Death. One of them is definitely Defending Your Life, which I think does really very different things with the same setting and theme. But I love that movie too. It's my favorite. It's my favorite Albert Brooks film.
Have you seen that one, Kara?
no.
Okay.
But I have another successor.
Okay.
What was your second one?
Not yours.
It's not City of Angels.
It is Wings of Desire,
Which is-
the film
funny.
that City of Angels is a remake of.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's weird. I thought you were going to judge me for my City of Angels comment.
Well, because
too.
I've never seen City of Angels, so I don't know if this is true. Wings of Desire is a movie that is told mostly from the perspective of angels watching us, which I know is also true of City of Angels.
Yep.
And when it's their perspective, it's all in black and white.
Different, though. City of Angels, all color.
So at the end, when an angel comes to Earth, his perception switches over to color, which I don't know that Wim Wenders was borrowing that from A Matter of Life and Death, but I think the idea that heaven is perfect, but it's also kind of lifeless and kind of drab and black and white, which is very much the thesis of Wings of Desire. Like, that's why it's doing it. I think that that's sort of a shared thing between these two movies, is that heaven is great, but Earth is where there's Technicolor.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And defending your life a little different. While Peter is very virtuous by all accounts, the Albert Brooks character in Defending Your Life, not so much. And he's trying to get his way into heaven. He has passed and has to prove, instead of proving not to go. He's like, he's trying to like find pieces of his life that he's actually a good human being, which is he's finding difficult with Meryl Streep.
I
think you would actually like that movie.
I would. I'm
sure
a
I
little
would.
shocked you haven't seen it. Actually.
I was a little obsessed with City of Angels. Did you ever see City of Angels?
Absolutely.
Did
yeah.
you like it?
I did the music, mostly the soundtrack, because I'm a.
Is that the I Will Remember You?
Google Dolls.
There's a bunch of.
There's a lot of good songs.
Yeah,
there.
a lot of music in there that's just going to
I'm
make you
confused.
sob.
Does it have a lot of Goo Goo Dolls, or does it have a lot of good songs?
Touché.
Peter Gabriel.
Touché.
In there?
All right, I'll give you Peter
Gabriel.
Gabriel.
A couple songs.
Give you that. I'll give you that.
I'm interested. What is the connection between City of Angels and?
So I think just similar. I think it's like you have this heavenly being that comes back down and falls in love with somebody that's an earthly being, and then it's the love story that comes from that. And what do you do when you fall in love with somebody that's still on Earth?
I want to get to this because we talked a little bit about it, but tell me if it's too early, if you guys have other things. But I want to talk about is it happening, or is it just in his head? That's what I really want to know people's opinions on that.
It's 100% happening.
What makes you say that?
Because I feel it.
Because you
I can just feel it like in my innards.
I think there's a lot to be said for if a movie shows us that something has happened in the absence of specific evidence, we should say that it happened.
Thanks, Tim.
I do think this movie wants that to be an open question. And I think the fact that it is an open question is what I care about more than coming down with an answer. That being said, I think if it doesn't happen, it makes some of the really interesting philosophy less meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
I agree. I have no definitive answer. I prefer it to be more of an open question. And the evidence to the opposite, Carol, what I'll share with you is some of the things that pop into my mind is during the opening scene where they're going through the universe. I think they actually talk a little bit about how powerful the mind is. And I think you actually quoted something similar where the mind can create things, situations that don't exist. And they keep referring to Peter's character as being too clever for his own good, that a weak-minded person wouldn't be able to overcome it.
No, but that's the thing. So he is so smart and he is so wise. So they said stupidity has saved many a man from going mad. So he is not going mad.
He's not going
got
mad,
it together.
But he has some sort of physical illness, which in his mind he's convinced him. I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, sure.
In his mind, he's convinced himself so well that his life depends on this trial, that he's so smart. He's done such a good job convincing. Like if he loses the trial in his mind, he will die. Like his body will shut down.
Sure.
Not because anything else is going on, but just because
I think that's
he's
probably
convinced
true,
himself
but I
of the
think that's
scenario.
actually true.
You know what else is interesting is after Conductor 71 leaves, that first scene in the garden, he loses his vision. He gets blurred. He gets blurred vision, which is now nothing angelic is happening in the surrounding area. So that also kind of stayed with me. The fact that the surgeon and the judge are also the same.
To me, that is probably the single best piece of evidence that he's making it all up.
I think they just didn't have a lot of really good characters at the time.
It is noted that Great Britain has produced a very small number of good actors.
Just going to leave that there.
I thought that's actually my second most piece of hardest hitting piece of evidence. Yeah. The number one is when Frank makes his way into heaven. There is never sort of Frank going like, holy crap, you were right, buddy. Like, I thought you were just making this up. And why that's important is because to Peter, Frank never showed his hand that I don't actually think that this is going on.
Yeah.
Sure.
And when he gets into heaven, if it was legitimately Frank, I feel like he would owe him like, honestly, man, I didn't believe you, but here I am. And it's just more of like business as usual. Frank accepts where he is and accepts the conditions. So I think there's enough evidence on both sides.
I will counter, not really counter, but simply put
make it a good one.
Evidence on the other side. The entire first scene in the afterlife is absent Peter. Like, we never see him. He's not there. He's not aware of what's going on. So why would that be happening if it wasn't really happening?
So yeah, Rob. Boom.
That's true. It's a good point.
There is actually one thing I definitely want to bring up before we part ways with the film, which is the title. It was initially called A Matter of Life and Death in Great Britain. It was retitled Stairway to Heaven in the United States. allegedly for the reason that the concern was that if you put the word death in a title, no one would want to go see the movie, which may or may not be true. I think A Matter of Life and Death is like one of the all-time great movie titles because it's so weirdly British and like understated. It's like the topic of the film, the matter of the film is life and death. Mm-hmm. So like we think of the phrase A Matter of Life and Death as like this huge crisis point, and the film is that, but it's also like sort of the topic of a lecture is a matter of life and death. And I find that tonally to be so amazing.
And the stairway was impressive. I did a little research on how they built that magnificent stairway, which did stand out on screen. But I agree with you. The Stairway to Heaven makes it, to me, a very confusing title.
I was confused why Led Zeppelin wasn't
there. Yeah, I was kept waiting for Led and Zeppelin to show up.
It's a good one because
I don't know anything about
musician, sing song.
Yes,
about that.
Led Zeppelin, the individual man whose name was Led.
I had one other question too. Is God ever shown? Is that are we intended to think that's the woman?
It's not clear that this is the Christian afterlife. I think is one of the things the movie does. Movie doesn't call it heaven.
You're right.
The movie calls it like the big old fucking bureaucracy.
You're right.
And like the highest ranking person we see is that very unhappy lady played by Joan Rod wonderfully.
I know. The closest they got to calling it heaven, I thought they called something heavenly at one point because I was listening for it, but they never really overtly
angels,
said it.
Right? We see angel wings.
Yeah,
but that's about it too. Yeah, I didn't see
and like
any.
it's clearly, and there's the implication that like you go there and you find great fulfillment. And there is the one moment about like, I think this might be where they say heavenly, like for some people being a Clark is, like that's totally what you want to do with the rest of eternity because it's better. You were just in a war.
Sure.
Being a Clark is a great thing. But it does not have, the idea is that you die and then you become some sort of middle manager. And I think that is certainly not, it is not what anyone aspires to as the afterlife, I don't think.
Agreed. Maybe so unclear on if God is there.
I do like middle management. That's where I want to end up.
It's a good place to be. Yeah.
Well, every week we ask you to share your picks and thoughts for a chance to win a free Amazon movie rental. With this movie, we're actually rewarding the person who checked out a little early. So Joy V. Hill, I know you bailed at the nude kid on the beach scene was the last straw for you. So now you get a chance to watch a movie on us.
You do not get the free prize until you show us a screen grab from a scene later than the nude kid.
The last 20 minutes.
Or just a still shot on the nude kid for me. That would work as well too. Joy, shoot us an email at contact@alternateending.com for details on how to claim your free movie rental. If you want to win a free movie like Joy, be on the lookout for a spoiler alert or top 5 movie posts on Facebook and Twitter. Share your favorite picks. In closing, just thanks everyone for tuning in. Check us out on social media. Go out to our Facebook page and like it. Check us out on Twitter. We're tweeting all the time. Alternateending.com. That's where you'll find our movie reviews, podcasts, and actually we just posted our catch and release. So that's movies new to Amazon and Netflix, so you can stay up to date with what's going on streaming. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google. Be sure to leave a review. Care? Any reviews?
There was a new one this week.
Oh my goodness, people are taking notice.
I know. So this is Kira Cat Lady. Maybe for you,
Thank you, Kira Cat Lady.
That's right. This sounds up Tim's alley. So she said a friend of mine got her started on alternate ending and now she's hooked. So she says, keep up the good work.
Well, thank you and thank your friend.
Yeah, keep spreading the word. We appreciate that. And tune in for our next show where with the It remake hitting theaters, we take a look at our top 5 Stephen King movie adaptations. So you'll get a chance to hopefully see the original
Jurassic Park
and then make a list.
That classic Stephen King novel, Jurassic Park.
So excited.
Catch you then.